Hello, my name's Toby Syme, live in Daylesford, and I'm presently being interviewed by Kyle and Donna. I've been storytelling basically since I could speak, and most people try very hard to shut me up, but so far they've failed to. Words and Winters has been going for 11 or 12 years now, and I've been involved in it every year one way or another, usually in the novel that's written in the day, where 6 different people will get together and write a chapter each, but also in other things, in poetry events, and also in the Landscape Prize once or twice. And I knew David Hall, who was one of the great initiators of it right at the outset, and he knew about me being a writer, and so I've always been involved in that. But when I heard about the May Landscape Story Prize, I was very interested because landscape and seasons are one of my major concerns. I grew up here, I regard myself as a country person, and I think having a relationship with the landscape where you allow it to influence you as well as you influencing it is incredibly important for Australians, especially rural Australians. And I think the better we understand our relationship to landscape, the better we're going to be able to manage this continent. So I was very keen to join in with that talk and hear the other stories too from other people, which were great, by the way. There were some really good speakers on the day. I guess slam means that it's brief. Again, things like slam and performance poetry aren't really my bag. I don't regard myself as a story or poetry performer. When I write for the page more than for the voice. I hope that it will follow through on the voice. But a slam tends to mean that it's hard and fast, and people are getting in and getting out, sort of thing. So they're telling stories or poems quickly, and usually there's a performative aspect to that, which involves, from my point of view, exaggeration, which isn't my bag. My point in telling the story was that across time, landscape becomes us as we become landscape. It becomes abstract. Where you live becomes the ideas, to a certain extent, that you fuel your life by, and it happens in slow and very subtle ways where you don't really realise the influence that landscape is having on you. But I think if you really do live in a place, it forms you in ways. And I was talking about Lady Franklin, which is the monticule of Mount Franklin, the extinct volcano outside Daylesford. And Lady Franklin it's like a pimple on the side of a volcano where the gas comes out rather than the solid, so that's like a pressure valve. And I first went there when I was a boy, without knowing what the place was. I had a hippie childhood, and my mother and her friends would always be driving out to farmyards and places to go to parties. And we went to visit the Powells, who were friends of hers who lived near Mount Franklin, at Powell's Lane. And we went for a long walk that I never forgot on this beautiful, blustery, windy day, rabbits and mossy rocks and big tufts of grass. And I didn't remember what the place was till many years later when I went there with my first girlfriend and was walking around, and I remember this saying, oh, I've been here before. And that's when my conscious relationship with Lady Franklin began. And eventually, many years later, when I turned 40, I had my birthday party out there in the volcano of Mount Franklin itself. And at a certain point I went off and I was sitting on Lady Franklin because it was so nearby. It was a very beautiful evening. I remember the sun was going down and the moon was coming up. They're both visible moving through the sky, and I remember it was like a Piaget watch face where you can see the sun and the moon moving across, and it was a very strangely timeless moment for me. And it was at that point that I realised, now that I was married with my present partner and we had children and so on, and I'd settled down a lot more, that the thing I'd been looking for, or that I'd found at Lady Franklin unknowingly, was a strong female presence.